Hi everybody. Today I am answering the question, caring for aging parents, do you worry about what is going to happen next? So many caregivers that I talk to worry about what is going to happen next. Many lose sleep or become immersed in this whirlwind of constant worry and negative thinking that can be very challenging to pull out of. It's almost like being in a plane that is nose diving to the ground. My goal in this video is to help you avoid that crash by talking about my 4 stages of caregiving. Fledgling, the test run, meso, and the home stretch. So why are these important? What are you going to get from watching these videos? Well, you may be able to, from this video, estimate how the care of elderly parents might change or progress over time based on what you can learn about their health and their current needs. Second, you may be able to predict their future care needs to minimize those unexpected surprises, worry, and sleepless nights. And third, you may be able to identify the financial, the time, and the personal resources that are needed today and that may be needed in the future to provide care for an aging parent, a spouse, a grandparent, other loved ones. If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker with almost 25 years of experience as a personal and professional caregiver, care manager, professional fiduciary, and advocate. You can learn more about me and the helpful information on my website by checking out the links below this video. I also ask you to like this video, follow my channel, and comment, even if only to say thanks for the video. Your participation, your comments make a huge difference for other people who are looking for similar information about caregiving, aging, health, how to take care of yourself, and all kinds of support. So let's get started with my 4 stages of caregiving. So in the first, the challenge and the time commitment of being a caregiver changes and it grows. And so based on my personal experience of the past 25 years, I have created these 4 stages of caregiving. And the first one is called the fledgling. It's when family members say, I didn't know I was a caregiver. Am I a caregiver? I found myself in this position many years ago when I was helping my parents. I visited every week. I helped with small tasks like taking my mom for social visits to see other family members, shopping, running errands. Sometimes we would just sit around and visit, play a game of cards. She loved to play pinochle. Or we worked on crossword puzzles, another thing that my mom enjoyed. The idea was spending time together in activities that were enjoyable and helpful to my mother, and that helped her be socially active because she did have a lot of health problems. The fledgling stage of caregiving is the stage where what I call caregiving creep happens. In the fledgling state, you may initially spend 1 to 2 hours a week with mom or dad or a grandparent or somebody else that you care for. And then all of a sudden that time begins to creep up and creep up and creep up. Then all of a sudden that 1 to 2 hours a week becomes 4 to 6 hours a week. And then maybe an entire weekend. And then sometimes 1 evening after work, 2 evenings after work, and then every evening after work on your way home. In this stage, when parents are pretty healthy and they just need a little bit of assistance, this fledgling state can go on for years and you don't even realize that you are a caregiver. But some type of accident or change in health that requires more help is the car crash that moves you from the fledgling state to the next stage that I call the test run. The test run is when parents begin to experience physical changes and health changes that make them less able to perform all the daily activities that they have done for years and years. One example is the activity of walking up and down the steps to do the laundry. Maybe your parent injured their knee, or they have hip problems, or maybe they have arthritis. Another kind of strenuous physical activity for an elderly parent may be dragging those heavy trash bins to the curb. All of these activities previously completed without really even thinking much about them become difficult because your parent has become a little more physically weak. Maybe they have balance problems. They're not so good on their feet anymore. Parents with heart problems and other conditions might easily just get out of breath and be unable to do these activities. During the test run, household support and help with daily chores from the caregiver begins to accelerate. Assistance with regular or the frequent work of managing a second household, not yours, begins. So for example, the household tasks that you might be doing can include dusting, sweeping, vacuuming. Maybe you're taking care of their pets, and that includes buying dog food, maybe taking pets to the vet. You might be doing laundry and changing their bed linens that require, some physical effort and stamina and bending and lifting and hand dexterity. Maybe you are deep cleaning their bathroom. Maybe you're going through the refrigerator to remove all of those spoiled foods from the refrigerator, or you're going through their cabinets to get rid of canned food that is dated and years old. Maybe you are going grocery shopping and carrying in the items and putting them away, or preparing meals. There's a lot of things that can be done. So this, what I call stage 2, the test run, is when caregivers have the greatest opportunity to affect change. And what I mean by this is you have the time to learn about health issues that are going to grow and require more time and more attention and more decisions, because at this stage your parents may only have just a little slight physical or mental decline. So things to watch out for: what are called chronic diseases like high blood pressure, asthma, arthritis, diabetes, breathing problems, any type of, believe it or not, vision problems, dental problems. All of these conditions can rapidly advance health problems, and parents will start having good days and bad days. Most of these conditions are not really immediately life-threatening, okay? But if you can catch them early and do something, you can make a huge difference for your parents. And so below in this video, I'm going to place a link to a module of my online program in webinar format. It's called Caring for Aging Parents. And this module discusses everyday routines to help you and your parents stay healthy. And it also includes a lot of strategies to manage these early health concerns and chronic conditions that can become much worse. Also, during this test run period, you may become involved in things like picking up medications and setting their medications out in those weekly boxes that you see at the pharmacy. Honestly, these boxes are amazing. They are time savers. I take a lot of vitamins to stay healthy, and I put my vitamins in that box. All I have to do every morning is flip the lid, take my breakfast, take the vitamins. Also in this stage, you may be hearing about or maybe start attending a few doctor appointments with your parents. Their medical care may be pretty routine, their health pretty stable, maybe just with some occasional ups and downs. As this stage progresses, you might become more involved with medical providers. the doctor and the nurses and the front desk staff in your parents' doctor's office may begin formally calling you the caregiver, and they may expect you to attend all of your parents' appointments. And when you attend, you may be actually providing some background information to the doctors and the nurses about what's going on with your parents' health. You also may notice this test run stage can be the time when you begin taking time off work to attend routine medical appointments. Maybe your parents are beginning to call you on the phone more often at work. You're learning more and more about your health, your parents' health and their well-being, and you're kind of starting to be their cheerleader. This means that you are encouraging them to listen to the doctor and follow up with the doctor's recommendations because you want them to be healthy. You want them to live a long time. Now, your parents may have other ideas, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But what you may notice is you're once energetic, and Dad used to play 18 holes of golf, and Mom used to go out with her friends and go to plays and spend hours out in the garden. All of that kind of just starts to slow down, and your parents are not as active as they once were. Inactivity, sitting around, not doing things, is not good for anyone of any age, especially older adults. So this stage number 2, gives you the most significant opportunity to be proactive, to talk to your parents about managing their health concerns and being proactive and staying active and walking and exercising and doing all of that so that the situation does not quickly become worse. And instead of Mom or Dad accepting, this is just what happens with aging, they can say, no, it's not what happens with aging. I want to be different. I want to be healthier than my friends and the peers that I see out there who are struggling with their health and having to give up a lot of things that they love. So, as this stage progresses, you're kind of the cheerleader, you're the motivator. Hopefully your parents are participating in that. And you continue to do all these things. Provide help with social visits, companionship, household chores, doctor appointments, picking up prescriptions, managing prescriptions. But this is also the stage that you should become more involved in having conversations, the uncomfortable ones, with your parents about their wishes and their care needs so that you can manage expectations, because right now you're in the early stage where you're giving time, but it can quickly grow to 20 hours a week and 30 hours a week and 40 hours a week. So it's very important to lay out expectations. Managing expectations is very important. Setting boundaries, personal boundaries, about what you can do and what you can't do, so that you do not overcommit or overpromise and find yourself in a stage of caregiver burnout and frustration and being angry and feeling like you gave up your life. Because this happens. It's in the future, so you can't see it yet. But I tell you, it happens to more caregivers than you would believe. So, if you don't want to have this happen to you, start having conversations with your parents about how much time do you expect me to help you every week? What happens when your health gets worse? Do you have the money to pay for caregivers or assisted living or other help? Did you save for all of these retirement and healthcare needs? Do you have long-term care insurance? Do you have your legal documents done? I'll talk more about that in a minute. So, caregivers who have these conversations early with aging parents fare better because you kind of feel like you have a plan. Caregivers can also take steps today for themselves to be proactive about your health and your care and saving money when you are older for your care. Learn from the experiences of your elderly parents who have these health concerns. Learn very quickly today so that you can be in a very different position when you're older. So along in this stage, we're going to talk just a little bit about medications. So managing prescription medications can become a regular project for you. The important thing is to know, why do your parents take 3 medications or 6 medications or 20 medications? You know, it's easy to pick them up. It's a little harder to know why somebody takes them, and the why somebody takes medications results to a health concern, which leads you into becoming increasingly more involved in doctor appointments and managing the conditions of your elderly parents. So a couple of examples. A parent who has type 1 diabetes and has to manage insulin and blood sugar readings, and maybe they have a continuous glucose monitor to monitor where their blood sugar is. And maybe they have an insulin pump. Well, that's a little bit of equipment to coordinate and manage. While another parent who has heart disease may only be taking their blood pressure every day to report it to the doctor. So caregivers learn, whether you want to or not, how to start using some of these pieces of medical equipment. And so these tasks and the frequency of your involvement transition into the 3rd stage of caregiving that I call meso, meaning half-half, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. One of my favorite clients, when I asked her how she would say, I'm meso. So that I have to attribute to her the name for my 3rd stage of caregiving. During this stage, caregivers will spend more and more time providing specifically healthcare support. So the frequency of medical care and the number of doctor appointments and the specialists that your parents see can quickly add up. You might even be attending several medical appointments every month or every 3 months on a rotating and regular basis. And if your parents have new concerns, that could be another doctor appointment. So in this 3rd stage, the meso, caregivers help elderly parents more in evaluating recommendations from doctors and making medical decisions, because that really is up to you. You and your parents want to be actively involved in medical care, which is not to say that you should not take doctors' recommendations, but because everybody is so different. The things that a doctor regularly recommends are for a very broad population, and that's important for you to understand. Very broad population. You may be, though, the needle in the haystack. You may be that 1 in 1,000 people who is different, and that recommendation is not good for you, or that recommendation does not fit your needs, or it does not help your parents' health problems. So it's important to be very, very active, be an advocate, ask a lot of questions in these doctor appointments about medical care, prescriptions, diagnosis, and treatment. So also in this stage, you've got to start balancing caregiving and what your aging parents can do. And what caregivers usually do, I did it myself a long time ago, you want to be helpful. You step in, you start doing all these things for your parents because you can do it quicker, easier, faster, you're smarter, blah, 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 blah. But what happens is then the scales tip and you're doing all of this and your parent is barely doing anything. Being too helpful when your parents or grandparents or whoever you take care of can still do things is not good. Because what happens is then the person that you care for becomes prematurely more dependent on you to do more and more and more. So, across the board, do only what other people really and truly cannot do for themselves. Let your parents, let the person that you take care of retain their confidence, their self-esteem that, yes, I can cook myself breakfast. I can do the laundry. I can let the dog out. I can pay my bills. I can do this. Otherwise, your helpfulness will erode their confidence, make them more dependent on you, and actually reduce their ability to care for themselves. And I know that is not a caregiver's intention, but that is what can happen. This third stage, meso, may result in more time, as I said, balancing caregiving and then work responsibilities, your paid job. You may need to come to work early, leave late, take a half day off, take a full day off from work to help your parents, maybe at a doctor appointment or a medical procedure. As soon as you can, talk to your workplace human resources manager. Figure out how to talk to your supervisor about this. And when you do, though, have a plan how you can work your schedule around these caregiving appointments. So can you come in early because you're going to leave early? If you have to come in late, can you stay late? Can you maybe work a Saturday morning to make up for a half day off during the week? There's a lot of options, but you have to be the proactive one to bring this up. Because caregiving responsibilities and tasks are going to continue and continue and continue to interrupt your life more if they haven't already. Interrupt your work, your family relationships, time with your children, your personal time, your self-care, and it's going to hugely affect your mindset. You as that caregiver, you might feel stretched very thin, stressed out, overwhelmed, frustrated, angry. The time that you spend may be upwards of 20 or more hours every week. You might even find yourself driving to your parents' home and just spending the weekend there because it's easier. In this stage, many caregivers are averaging 30 hours a week of care for elderly parents, in addition to that full-time paying job. Whatever you do, caregivers, think very, very carefully before you give up your job, your career, your income, and your future retirement savings to become a full-time caregiver. There's more information on that in my website, in articles. I talk about this in videos. Think very carefully before you do that because the long-term effects really are unimaginable until you find yourself there. So another one of the goals in this meso stage of caregiving is to stabilize and manage the care situation. So you're not always worrying about, what's going to happen next? What disaster is going to happen next? I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm worried. This stage can last for years if you can stabilize things until that next unexpected thing happens. But honestly, a period of stability is a godsend. I took care of so many clients for so many years, and we were very attentive to every little small detail, and it made a huge difference. And our clients were stable for so long until something happened, a hip fracture, a heart attack, something. This stage also is the time where, if you're doing more and more and more, you want to have conversations with your siblings or other people in the family about who can help. Can anyone help? Now, know that there also may be disagreements between you and your elderly parents and your siblings about what should be done and what shouldn't be done and all of that. It's normal. It happens. These disagreements happen in families. But as you notice that your parents seem less able to manage their daily tasks, maybe they're more confused, maybe they don't know how to plan, maybe they're in denial about the fact that things really are going to get worse. Maybe your siblings are in denial. It's up to you as the caregiver to bring up these concerns and start having conversations about them. And if people are resistant, bring up the conversation again and again and again until people are willing to talk. This, again, involves advocacy. So you're becoming an advocate for your parent. You're speaking up and saying, hey, we have this problem. We need to talk about it. advocacy is a skill that you can learn if you don't know how to do this. And this is going to kind of take us into what I call the estate planning and my mention earlier of legal documents and financial power of attorney. So if your parents have not done their medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, living will, or trust, now is the time. There is a link below to my Health and Financial Power of Attorney online webinar program, absolutely free. If you or your parents have not yet completed these documents, I take you through a number of steps about who to appoint, how to appoint successors, what being a power of attorney really means if you accept that responsibility, and how to, once you have your documents, who do you give them to? How does all that work? It's all in this program linked below. It's essential to make sure that elderly parents and you have completed all of these documents as soon as you can, because once health changes and maybe memory loss happens, they always can't be completed then. It might be a little too late. So if you do become this medical or financial power of attorney, you are one step in and one step out. So you, in a sense, are a consultant to your parents, saying, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? What do you think about this? Can I do this for you? You do not have the power to take over and do things that they can still do for themselves. They can fire you at any minute if you are abusing your power. So again, link below, video, webinar, tells you how to work through all this. During this time, as I talked, the care, the financial, the balance discussions, the expectation discussions, super, super important. And elderly parents may not want to talk about this. And you as a caregiver may be uncomfortable talking about this. There's plenty of videos here on my channel about how to do this. What I can tell you is delaying or avoiding these discussions will result in having to make decisions under pressure in some type of crisis situation where you may not make the best decisions because you don't have all the information, you didn't do the research, your parents didn't tell you about what they wanted, and you've got 5 minutes to choose something. Not really a place that you want to be. It's also important to realize that this third stage of caregiving is super, super stressful on the caregiver because you're trading your time. It has an effect on your health, your work life, home life, relationships, friendships, time with children, and social activities. A lot of caregivers feel guilty because you can't do enough. You're probably already doing enough, and probably too much. Caregivers, especially women, want to think that they can do it all. This desire to do and be everything for someone else can actually result in bad care, unintentional neglect, because you're exhausted, you're stressed, you're inattentive, you're distracted, you're thinking about 10 million things. So what do? You forget to give your parents an important medication. The doctor's office called and you were so distracted that you forgot to call back. And 2 weeks later, they're trying to get a hold of you. So you've got to find ways to help you manage all the stress associated being a caregiver and to really manage your thoughts. Managing your thoughts is like more important than almost anything. Again, plenty of other videos here, information on my website about that. But when you're trying to maintain all of this balance, look at the skills that you have. How have you managed unexpected change in the past? How do you cope with change? Some people are very good with change. Other people are not good at all. Which camp do you fall in? Are you an optimist who is action-oriented and tend to think of change as, well, it's an opportunity to learn something, going to learn something new? Are you an idealist who is very sensitive to the needs of others and you want to make sure that nobody's feelings are getting hurt? You want everybody to be happy, which is not always possible. Are you a team player? Do you have great interpersonal skills? Are you able to marshal your brothers and your sisters and family members to come and help? Are you more of the analytical type who is great at planning and you've got systems and processes and approaches to manage all of this change? Are you more emotional? You're like, I can't deal with this. Or are you more logical? You're looking at the facts and problems to be solved and how are you going to do this? Or maybe you are a very unique person who has a little bit of all these skills. Know that wherever you fall, you already have some experience. You've got some skills that you learned either in the workplace or through life that you can apply to these roles and responsibilities of being a caregiver or a power of attorney. Because as your elderly parents, as their health problems increase, as you do more and more and more, you will enter the fourth stage of caregiving, which I call the home run. The home run and the home stretch. So in this home stretch, elderly parents, grandparents, a spouse, somebody else can need a lot of care because their health is getting worse. At this point, it's not going to get better, and maintaining it may not even be possible. So you as this caregiver may be participating in daily care, or if you're a spouse, maybe you are a full-time 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week caregiver who never gets a break. Maybe you're one of these two types of caregivers and you're bringing in-home caregivers to help and other services to help supplement the care that you are doing. It's like a full-time job being a caregiver. So this, if you have not already had these discussions in stage 1, 2, or 3, maybe the time when you have to seriously talk about, is it time to move to a care community? I know that nobody wants to leave their house. Nobody wants to move out of their house. But honestly, if you're the caregiver and you can't do it all, are you really doing the best job you can for your parent or your spouse? Or are you honestly just exhausted and worn out? That is going to affect your health if it has not already. So this caregiving in these stages are this continual evolution of talking about what ifs, making a plan, talking about what ifs, having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C for what if all these things happen, and trying to be prepared so that you're not worrying about what's going to happen next. So here's a story about how I actually did this. I had a client that I cared for years. I was her medical and financial power of attorney. She had a lot of health problems, and one of these was memory loss. But early on, it was early memory loss. And then her memory loss advanced. And I brought caregivers into her home in the morning. Then I added an evening shift. So even with these caregivers coming 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the evening, she really needed more care because in that in-between time, she was not eating, not taking her medications, not getting any exercise. And so I gradually began introducing the idea of moving to a memory care community. And I talked about all the positives. And for her, it was really being around people and being socially active because she was very social. She was a school teacher, right? And the cost of these caregivers coming into her home became more than the daily cost of care in a community. And so while she had money to pay for care, she did not have unlimited money to pay for care. Most people don't. If you have unlimited money, then you have way, way more options. But if money is limited, these conversations should start earlier and earlier and earlier because you have to make alternate plans. And so we sold my client's home, we moved her into a care community, and it was a very positive experience. She enjoyed the social activities and the people and getting together at mealtime. And the community met all of her basic needs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and medication reminding, and socialization, and everything else. It was a great, great situation. In this home stretch, how do you know if your parents are starting to need more care than you can provide? Well, are you doing a lot of daily monitoring and hands-on assistance? You might be assisting with bathing, dressing, incontinence, medication reminding, meal preparation, using medical devices, again, to help with diabetes, or maybe a loved one has a catheter and you're changing the catheter bag. All of this medical care and oversight can grow as health problems advance. So again, you're recording blood pressure, you're managing blood sugar, maybe insulin, maybe you're preparing special diets, emptying catheter bags, or providing some other advanced type of medical care. So during all of this, ongoing care and coordination with medical providers is necessary. And by now, your doctors probably know you by name. They know you when you call on the phone. The nurses at the doctor's office should know you. Your elderly parents, unfortunately, may be in and out of the hospital and having nursing home stays and all of that. So eventually, these care needs may advance to the point that you cannot do this anymore physically or emotionally, even if you have family support or you're paying caregivers to come into the home. So all these discussions about what happens if, the backup plan, how do you access Medicaid programs or veterans benefits or long-term care insurance or life insurance policies, how do you pay for all of this care? And then talk about end-of-life wishes, which is a very uncomfortable discussion. I mean, how much advanced care do you really want if you're not feeling well? Do you really want to extend your life if you cannot do the things that you love? Now, some people will say, absolutely, yes. I want all the care I can have. I want to live as long as I can. Other people will say, you know what? If I can't go out and play golf and hike or ski or boat or fish, my life is just not what it was. I don't want it extended unnecessarily. This can sometimes mean moving into a nursing home or accepting palliative care and then hospice care. And these discussions can be very heartbreaking for the caregivers because you're looking at this person that you love and saying, oh my gosh, I don't want you to die. I want to have you with me as long as I possibly can. And the person on the other hand who doesn't feel well is saying, oh my God, this is a miserable life. Why hasn't God taken me already? Why can't I die in my sleep? I don't want to go on like this. So you have very conflicting, or you can, ideas and opinions about extending life. And so the important thing here is the wishes of your elderly parents, your grandparents, whoever you're taking care of. If they had put this in a legal document, in their medical power of attorney, in their living will, it's up to you to honor their wishes even if you disagree, even if it is heartbreaking. During the last 6 months of life, a person can access hospice care. And hospice care can be a place, but it's actually care that comes into the home. Nurses, people to help with bathing, manage medications, all of that. This is kind of when, if you have not already done this, it's good to talk about, do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want a service? What do you want? And to kind of get those plans in place. So as you can see, being a caregiver, it's a lot of responsibility. It can last for years and years and years. And so I believe that knowing the stages of caregiving and the associated responsibilities and learning how to maintain a situation, learning what to do when things get worse is so important to talk about early in the process before things really advance. Because change in caregiving, change in all areas of life, right? It's a process. Initially, we may resist and say, oh, I don't like this. No, I'm going to go kicking and screaming. And then somehow we find a way to adjust and adapt and realize that this is what we have to deal with. So the best thing that anybody can do is give thought to things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. The biggest thing to control is your mind and how you think about these things. It is up here because that can make a huge, huge difference in how you look at your life, in the life of other people, and everything else. And so when these decisions need to be made, if you think about these 4 steps and you kind of set time frames for, we should talk about this now, and then we should talk about this and talk about this. When these changes happen, when these negative things happen, you will be so much more prepared. Not that you will like it, okay? But you'll say, you know what? I knew this might happen. We have a plan. We have options. Let's talk through this and figure out what we're going to do together. Caregiving is a process of change, just as aging and being that person who needs care is a process of change. And really acceptance of health problems that you can't change. And the fact that eventually everybody's body is going to wear out. I thank you so much for joining me for the 4 stages of caregiving. I'm Pamela D Wilson, a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Please do click below to learn more about me. Check out the programs on my website. I have a podcast. I have 3 online caregiving programs. So much information. Also, please like this video, follow my channel, comment, even if it is only to say thank you. Your comments, your follows, your sharing this channel can help so many other people find their way here, to find the hope, help, and support that caregivers need and that people who are aging and experiencing health problems can benefit from. Again, I thank you so much for being here. I will see you all again soon in another video.